Ready?
Okay, we're recording. Woohoo! So hello and welcome to Adventures in Visibility. Today's show is all about how to overcome writer's block. Today
Dun,
is
dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I need sound effects. Okay. So for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Denise Wakeman, your guide to more visibility on the web and your host of Adventures in Visibility. Today is truly an adventure because I'm hosting my first blab here with my guest, Lisa Canfield, also her first blab.
Definitely my first blab.
For those of you who know me, you know I am all about the adventure. So why bother practicing? Just jump in. I've watched enough. I've read enough. It's all about just doing it. So I hope you'll forgive me if anything is weird. You know, I don't think it will be, but we're going to be talking with Lisa Canfield. We are talking with Lisa Canfield today. Lisa is a professional writer.
Yes,
she is a ghostwriter.
That too.
And she is a book coach.
That's three.
She's my book coach, as a matter of fact. And we're going to be talking, about how to get through writer's block, because if you have to write anything from a blog post to a book to autoresponder emails to status updates, I'd be willing to bet you have suffered from writer's block at one time or another. Now, before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping for those of you. I know there's a lot of you who are new to Blabs, and I so appreciate you coming on board and joining us for this one. For those of you who are old hands at it, like John Leland, I know you jumped on this so fast. I so admire that. So I want to just give you a little background before we get into the actual show. So Blab launched approximately 11 days ago. It's in beta. So anything could happen, but what I have experienced by watching them and by jumping into a couple of Blabs already is that it's a very stable platform already. So hopefully everything will be fine. If you find that you are kicked out, or I'm kicked out, or Lisa, you're kicked out, just refresh your browser. Hopefully that will happen. I am going to, or hopefully that won't happen, but it'll all work. So I'm going to be interviewing Lisa for about 20 to 30 minutes. During that time, please feel free to chat in the chat stream. If you're on your desktop, it's below your video. If you're on mobile, then after that, I will open up the 2 remaining seats to bring in people if you want to ask Lisa a question or me a question or us a question. And I'll bring you in, because that's really the fun part. But while I'm interviewing Lisa, I want to have a nice, clean recording. If you do have a question while we're going and you want to type it into the chat box, if you type in it's a slash and then a Q and then a space, then type in your question. What happens is that'll highlight the question and it'll make it really easy for me to see. And if it's a good place for me to ask Lisa the question, I will do that. On your left, you will see a blue button that says Tell a Little Bird. That is so that you can help us get the word out and actually tweet about the show. And so if you can do that, that would be fantastic. I would love it. And look there's John and Butterfly Herder demonstrating how to ask a question. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So if you click on that little blue Tell a Bird button, it pre-populates a tweet and you just click it and go. You can also edit it if you want. And finally, under our images, you see these little hands like this. If you want to give us props, if you want to applaud something Lisa is saying or something I'm saying, just tap on that right there and somebody's got it. You got it down. Go, girl. Lisa, people are loving you already. So
I need the love.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's really cool to be able to get the feedback in real time. So
I know,
that's
it's crazy.
the housekeeping. Now we are going to get going. So Lisa, are you ready?
I am as ready as I will ever be.
Yay! Okay, so this is fun. Isn't this exciting?
It's awesome. I can't believe how well it works.
Yeah, easier than Google Plus Hangouts, right?
Way easier.
I know you had a lot of challenges with that, and so did I. As I mentioned earlier, I mentioned before we started recording that earlier today I was on a hangout with Heidi Van Horn, Hornline, Heidi Hornline, sorry, Heidi, and Margarita, whose last name I can't remember. But, these gals have done over 80 live hangouts. And they started the hangout. It said live. We were going, we were talking. And guess what? Nobody could see us, and it didn't record.
Oh my God.
Anything can happen on Google+.
People could see us, right? Everybody can see us. Hello.
Margarita Crystal Lotus. Thank you, Margarita. It was
Thank
wonderful. So anyway, anything can happen. It's an adventure, and now we're here. So you gals were great. I love being on your show, and we'll do it again. The ironic thing is that it was about being visible, and we were totally invisible. Okay.
I think that's extra memorable, though.
Yes. So
at least to you.
Yeah. So, hey, Steve Cozart. All right. Okay, I got to try not to be distracted by people coming on.
Me too. I'm just looking at you. Only you.
Yeah,
only
please.
you.
Well, just look straight out, and that way you're looking at the audience too. Okay. So, Lisa, we talked a little bit earlier, before coming on, and you said, start with your story, Denise. So
yes, it's a good one.
We're talking about writer's block and how to overcome it. And what I would like to know from you and the audience is, have you ever suffered from writer's block? So go ahead and, type in your answer to that. Have you ever suffered from writer's block? And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Lisa is my book coach, and there's a reason for that.
Because she's smart.
Because I have writer's block. I still have writer's block. So 2 years ago, my coach started telling me, you got to write a book, Denise. You got to write a book. You've got a message to share. You need to write a book. You've got tons of visibility. You've got a huge audience, but you'll really add another layer of credibility to you and your business if you write a book. And I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I don't like writing books. It's too much. It's all I can do to get my blog posts written, blah, blah, blah. I had every excuse in the book. And I didn't do anything about it 2 years ago. And she kept bugging me gently, nicely, but she kept bugging me. Then a year ago, she said, okay, listen, we got to get this book out of you, Denise. And so my coach is Andrea Lee. And I flew up to Vancouver, and we spent a whole day mapping out the book. And I was so excited. It was just, we had a whole idea, and we had a structure and everything. And I was really, really excited. I got back to LA and did nothing. I was just overwhelmed by the whole process. And I was struggling. I knew what I wanted to say, but I just didn't know where to start. I didn't know, what do you write? Just like writing, do you start at the introduction? Do you start on the first chapter? Where do you start? I just didn't do anything. I had writer's block. Fast forward a few more months, and Lisa contacts me and says, do you want to do a trade? I can help be your book coach if you help me with social media. And I said, oh, yes.
Which is why I'm here.
I was like, yes, please help me, because I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. So, Lisa, is that common? There's so many people that want to write a book and they can't get started. Is that something you've discovered?
Writing a book is probably the most writer's block inducing kind of writing, because it's so big. And if you've never done it before, the idea of writing at least 100 pages that are all going to hang together and make sense and take the reader on some sort of a journey, some sort of a here to there, or convey some sort of information that they're going to understand, it's like it seems insurmountable. And when something seems insurmountable, starting it is incredibly hard, because once you take that first step, you ostensibly can keep going. You'll be on the journey. So as long as you keep stopping yourself, it's a way of delaying the inevitable. And there are so many ways to stop yourself from doing it. And the best is just to say, I don't know. So I have a solution for that. I'm sort of a very, very, very adamant about this particular thing. And that is, if you're going to write something long, especially, do an outline first and know what you're going to do. And then you know where to start because you've already written it down. You can just look at the outline and it essentially says start here.
Right.
So you can, and the better your outline is, the more detailed your outline is, the less opportunity you have to get stuck, because it basically tells you everything you need to do and you just need to follow it.
Right. Yeah. So in my case, I had like dozens and dozens of Post-it notes with all these like keywords, you could say, ideas on them. And I didn't know what to do with them. I mean, they were kind of organized, but I didn't know what to do with them. So, I've been working with Lisa, and the first place we started was an outline.
Yep.
And I have to say, because I am such a procrastinator, and I am, I work hard. I won't, I'm not lazy. I do work hard.
No, it's not like you're eating bonbons when you should be writing.
Exactly. I'm not eating bonbons, but I can find just about anything else to do other than to write. So getting on the phone with Lisa was really, really helpful. And this isn't a commercial for Lisa, but I just want to share what my story is, because it could help other people. And I mean, you can find a writing partner, you can, your spouse, I mean, you and your spouse write together. So that's, that probably helps you a lot too, or a buddy, find somebody who can talk you through it, because it's not like I didn't know what to do. It just helped to have somebody talk me through it. Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? So
it's relying on your own, when you've never written a book before, relying on your own very limited knowledge and knowing that you're right about what you're supposed to do next can derail you. Whereas if you have another person there that you're talking to, that you're working with, you can say, should I do that? And they can say yes or no. And then you can say, well, if no, what should I do? And they can tell you. And so it does sometimes help just to have somebody else to talk in the process with you, because when you don't know, having a little support can be extremely valuable. And I do think it's why a lot of people who set out to write books don't ever do it, because it's not too hard for everyone, but it's too hard for a lot of people to pull something that complex off on their own without any sort of guidance.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're sitting by yourself here, my office, like, okay, I think I'll go.
Rings, or you get a good email.
I'm going to go post on Facebook instead, So is this something that, I don't want to just confine this to books.
No.
That happens to be my personal experience right now, is that I'm like really struggling with it, and I keep canceling meetings with Lisa, as a result. But so now you're getting the inside view of how Denise functions.
Dirt, and my dirt comes next.
Dysfunctional. I'm dysfunctional when it comes here. But what about things like, blogs, blog posts, ebooks, sales letters? That's another thing that I think probably a lot of people struggle with.
Well, my personal story, because I came to Denise for help with social media, because I like to just sit in my office and hide behind my computer, is, okay, I decided I need to get more visible. So, of course, Denise tells me the first thing I need to do is start blogging, which even though I'm a writer, I don't blog. I don't write for myself. I write for other people. That's completely different. So I run into writer's block about once a week when it's time for me to write a blog. And the way I found that writer's block tends to fall into categories for me. One of the categories is and that's a category where you just need, you can go online, you can talk to somebody, you can, pick apart your business and what you do, think of something in the news that you want to talk about. You can get past that one pretty easily. The worst one for me, and I think it's the worst one for Denise too, is when you get judgy with yourself. When you write a sentence, you sit down, like I'll sit down to write a blog post and I'll write the first sentence of my blog post and I'll look at the sentence and I'll say, oh God, that's horrible. That's a terrible sentence. I can write that sentence better. So I'll go back and I'll write the sentence again. No, that's not quite right either. And an hour can go by and I can still be sitting there staring at my screen and some version of that sentence will be there. And for me, the way to get past that is just to get all the facts of what I want to say down and just kind of ignore that judgy voice inside of me and just remind myself it's not going to come out perfect. I wasn't born perfect. Well, maybe I was, but it takes some refining and some working, and you absolutely are at liberty to do that. You know, just the fact that it didn't come out ideal in the first place, and it doesn't feel exactly the way you want it to feel or read exactly the way you want it to read, doesn't mean it won't. But if you just keep worrying about that forever, you're never going to get anything else done. Perhaps if you write the rest of it, it'll give you some more ideas about the beginning. You never know.
Well, that's a good tip there. Is that, do you ever recommend that people start somewhere other than at the beginning?
Yes. If you can't do it at the beginning, especially, I think intros are super hard. I think intros, when I write a book for somebody, the intro is always the hardest part for me, because it's when you nail down voice, it's when you nail down the tone and how the whole thing is going to feel. So it can be a good cheat to just get right into the information, just go right to the meat of it. Usually, if it's a blog post, you're going to have a couple of points. So you're going to want to lay out, I'm going to write, even just write it in the most rudimentary way. Today, I'm going to write a blog post about writer's block, because I know that people have trouble with writer's block. They have 3 different kinds of writer's block. This is the first kind of writer's block. This is the second kind of writer's block. And you just go through it, just filling in just straight information in the most simple, non-threatening, non-taxing way that you can. And then once that's all down, then you can go back and mess with it, because you've already done the hard part, which is getting the information on the page.
Right.
So it's there, and all that's left is for you to make it better.
Okay, yeah.
That goes for you too, Denise.
I know. I'm getting my coaching in here today too, yes, from my book coach. Because I realized that when I was first starting, back a few months ago, that I felt like I had to start at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that seemed really unclear how to do that. And one of the things you advised me, part of what's going to be in my book is case studies of some of my successful clients. And so, in the effort to do something, then I sent questionnaires out to my clients. So this is a good way to look at it too. I really love this suggestion of yours. Is like, I sent them questions, but I also offered to do an audio interview and tape. Boy, there, just aged myself.
Yes,
and record the answers with my clients, and then have it transcribed. That's huge right there, because then it's written for you in a way. It's like a rough draft.
And it's written for you in natural talking language. Another thing that I recommend for people when they get writer's block is to stop trying to write and to record themselves talking. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the time you forget how to put things, or you put this weird pressure on yourself to be a different person than you are in real life in writing. And sometimes, maybe if you have like a super, super high level corporate thing where you only deal with executives at Fortune 500 companies or something, then maybe you do want to sound very formal and very, very limited. But most of us don't. Most of us with small businesses, it's just us. It's just our personalities. And our personalities are what people want to know. It's why they read blog posts and books and stuff like that. They want to know who we are. So if you can't get that by typing it, you can probably get it by talking it. You can just, record yourself. And if you can't just say it to the air, say it to a friend, say it to your partner, say it to your kid. I said I would rope my kids in and make them do things, and they'd complain, but I figure it's par for the course. They owe me because I've taken care of them. But talking and recording and hearing that language, and not telling yourself it's not good enough because it's not formal. I'm very informal when I write. Anybody that reads my stuff knows I'm incredibly informal, but if I have to be formal, I can be. I just choose not to be, because I want to sound like me.
Well, and that comes into play, like finding your voice, right?
Yeah. That's more a question of style. But if you're being super critical of your style as you're trying to write, or if you're having trouble writing anything that feels okay to you, going back and just recording yourself, talking it out, talking about whatever your subject is, because you obviously know about it, or you wouldn't be trying to write a blog post about it, mm-hmm, or a book or whatever. If you just have a conversation about it, you're going to find so much of the language that you need right there, and it makes your job a lot easier.
Right. And, I know personally, and also other people have mentioned this to me, is that we learned how to write in a certain style. Some of us of a certain age, learned how to write in that very formal style when we were in high school or whatever,
Yes.
when we had to do our term papers. And sometimes it's really hard to get out of that. And, blogging is a good exercise for learning to write less formally and more in the I versus the IU versus the third person, which is what we were taught to write in.
Yes.
So I think that's also a good practice is blogging. And Bill from Stop Jet Lag says he started using Dragon Naturally Speaking to do his first drafts. Have you ever used that tool?
I know a lot of people. I haven't done it because, writing is I actually probably communicate better through a keyboard than I do talking. But for a lot of people, yes, a lot of people I've worked with have used Dragon, and they have really, really liked it quite a bit.
Great.
And good results.
For those of you who've just joined this, I'm Denise Wakeman, your host of Adventures in Visibility. My guest is Lisa Canfield, professional writer, ghost blogger, ghost writer, and book coach extraordinaire. Thank you so much, all of you who are, using the Tell a Little Bird blue button to let your communities know about this show. I appreciate it. I'm watching your conversations, and thank you for helping each other and having those conversations with each other. Really appreciate that. Just circling back to the recording thing, about 5 years ago or so, I was invited to create a chapter for a book that was being published by my colleague Marnie Pearson. And I said yes. I jumped right into it. Oh yes, of course, and then as the deadline approached, it was getting closer and closer. I was freaking out because I hadn't written anything and I did not know what I wanted to say. And, I was really, really, really uptight about the whole thing. And I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to bail out. But then I thought, well, that's really rude, because now it's so close to the end.
Social pressure makes you go through with it.
Yeah, social pressure. No kidding. I was really upset about this. And, this is a part of you, probably most of you don't see of me, but this was really what was going on. So, I let Marnie know I was really struggling, and she was very kind and gave me a different way to look at the questions she had asked. And then what I decided to do is I asked a friend if she would ask me the questions, and we would record them. And that just broke everything open, totally open. And it was great because she really dug deep into the questions. So she wasn't content to ask the question. She would get more clarity on the question. I had it transcribed. It was so much easier to write that chapter after that. So I think that that's a great tip for most people. So what are some other tips you have for people who have writer's block in any area of writing?
Well, another big kind of writer's block that I specifically suffer from is because I write all the time. So, and I write for people, for money. So I'm always having to come up with ideas and think of how to say things and how to put things. And they always come to me at the least opportune times, generally in the bathtub or in bed, are the two places where I get most of my ideas. Now, if I'm in bed, I'll pick up my phone and I'll send myself a little text message or an email or something that will have some words, to remind me of what I thought of and, how I want to do it. But if I'm in the bathtub, generally I'll get out, I'll wrap myself in a towel, I'll run to my computer, I'll drip all over the keyboard. And invariably, as soon as I get the file open, it all just disappears, just it's gone. And I think the reason why that happens is lack of planning. I think that if you really don't know exactly what you're going to say, and you get these flashes, right? And they're brilliant when you get them. At least you think they are. When you get those flashes of brilliance, why do they disappear? I think the reason why they disappear is because they're only a part of something and you don't know what they're a part of. And I think if you go back, for me, I will go back and I will build the container that I want to put the brilliant idea in. And maybe the brilliant idea will come back, or maybe a different idea will come. I don't know. But if you can't hold on to something, think bigger, think about where it was supposed to go, make the place for it. And again, you can do that in the simple, rudimentary, now I am going to talk about this. I am going to talk about this because this is why it's important. Here is the thing you need to know. And then that will hopefully spark your flash of brilliance, and it will come back to you when you need it.
Do you recommend journaling?
I don't personally journal because I write all the time. But for people that need to write and are having trouble finding ideas, finding motivation, finding time, taking, I'd say, 20 minutes to journal at a specific time every day is a great, great habit to get into. And you can write about nothing. If you get into the habit and you make it a habit, then whatever you do during that time is fine. If you want to sit there and channel The Shining and write all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy for 20 minutes, you go do that. Probably after about 5 minutes, you'll have some other idea and you'll want to write something else down. It's just getting your brain working in that way. And especially if you suspend judgment, because I think judgment is the thing that really, really makes the most writer's block, at least for me. It's really questioning what you're seeing and saying, this isn't good enough. This isn't right. I hate this. Blah. When that happens, that will derail you. So journaling is a judgment-free activity. And you will probably at least come up with some bits of wording or some concepts that you want to flesh out later. And they'll be there. They'll be there in solid form. And you'll be able to go back and refer to them and use them.
Right. One of the things that also helps me, another tip that maybe others also do, is that when I feel really, really super stuck, like I know I have to write something, there is no getting out of it. There's no way around it. I have to write something, whether it's a book or an email or whatever. And if I'm just not doing it, I'll go for a walk. I'll go for a walk around the block. There's a park not too far from me, and I will just, do that for 20 minutes. And it usually clears my mind and helps me re-engage with what it is that I want to say.
Yes, absolutely. My dog never gets more exercise than when I have really bad writer's block. There's like a little report thing that we'll probably talk about at the end, but that's one of the, there's a series of steps that I follow when I really, really, really get stuck. And I actually came up with it with Joel, my husband, who really does not get writer's block in his mind. I don't believe anybody doesn't really get it. I think that they just don't allow themselves to get it. I allow myself, I indulge. But one of the important steps for me is to stop. And I actually stop at 2 points. I stop at the beginning, because it's better than continuing to, spin around in the same circle forever and ever and ever. That's like a quick stop. And then I actually do another stop later after I get all the facts down, that thing where it's like, I am writing a blog post. My blog post is about this, that sort of thing, and then clean it up a little bit. After that, I'll definitely walk away and leave, because I don't want to start the judgment part. I want to delay that as long as possible. And I want to get as much done as I can before I start evaluating its quality.
Excellent. And I posted the link to your tips for getting through writer's block. So that link is a live link in the chat also. That's 10 tips, right? 10 tips to get through writer's block?
It's just 5.
7? 5.
It's just 5.
Okay, 5. That's all you need is 5.
It's not 5 individual tips. It's a process.
Okay.
This, then this, then this, then this, then this. So it's basically, a lot of this stuff is more situational. Like, if you think of something and it goes away, or if you can't think of where to start or whatever. This is more where you're in the act of writing and you're stuck. What do you do right then? And this is the process that I go through, because I'd say I get that kind of stuff probably about once a week. But you got to figure I write all day, every day. So that's not too bad.
Yeah,
but, there are weeks where it happens every day. It just depends on the project.
So if those of you in the audience, if you have a tip for getting through writer's block, go ahead and post it. I'm going to be opening up the 2 remaining video seats in just a moment. But I also want to just say, Trudy said, I keep a list of ideas in a Word doc. Also, I have a category called Women Biz Owner Interviews. And when I listen to them, I put ideas on my list that I get from there.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's a good tip. And Laura says, nothing like a looming deadline to get her to write. Moi, too.
Yes.
Me, too. Deadline, man, am I verbose.
If you're one of those people that really likes to play, likes to get close to the edge, that, I remember how many nights in college, pulling all-nighters, writing papers. Some people really need that. They need the adrenaline to push them through. And if that works for you, that's fine. Because especially if writing isn't your job, if you're writing for your business, if you're writing because you have to, then you've got to do what works for you. There are no rules except get it done. Yeah,
exactly. Janica shares shower notes. She says waterproof notepad. Google Aqua Notes. Aqua Notes. Okay, so that's for the shower, so you don't have to run out. And
I think I would need them all along the wall, because I get whole sentences, I get whole paragraphs, I get language. That's what
maybe you need a waterproof recorder.
Yes, I think it's more that, because I get big stuff.
Trudy has a question. She said, I started writing a book a few years ago, but stopped. What can I do to start writing it again?
Okay. If I had started writing a book a few years ago and I stopped, the first thing I would do is pick it up and read what I had. And I would think about what I was trying to accomplish with the book. What is this book trying to say? And then I would make an outline, and I would incorporate, I would not use what I'd written before to determine what's in the outline, but I would use what's in there before to spark my ideas of what can this book be and how should it go. And then I would make an outline and take whatever pieces I'd already written and place them in where they fit, and look at what else you need. Think about what else you need to make the book work, and maybe why it wasn't working for you before.
Excellent.
Also, maybe a schedule.
Do
a chapter every week. That's how I will write if I'm writing a book for someone. I like to put myself on a chapter a week schedule, so that I'm immersed in the process and it doesn't get too far away from me. But on the other hand, I'm not pushing myself too hard to finish, because when that happens, sometimes quality suffers and you miss things. I think it's a good way. Just look at it as like another blog post. Right. If you manage to do that every week, it's just like that.
Exactly. It's just a blog post, right?
Yeah.
So Bonnie says that she flips through her books of quotations for inspiration.
Yep.
And Elizabeth Cottrell says, when I get ideas, I write 3 bullet points about it in my blog in draft form. These often prime the pump for later. Excellent.
Yeah.
Carolyn Ellis says, what I do is commit to sitting down and writing something for X minutes. So 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and then stop. Commit to the time and not worry as much about the end product.
Exactly.
Great. Let's see. I saw something else. Repurposing scopes and blab topics works well too.
Repurposing is a sneaky trick that I like a lot.
Yes. And scopes, for those who might not know, are Periscope shows or videos. Phyllis, hi Phyllis, you're blab hopping this morning. Cool. All right. I like that. Blab hopping. Okay. Anything else? I start out with a mind map. This is Laura from Joyful Biz. I start out with a mind map to get the juice and ideas flowing. Another great idea. Blopping. Okay. All right. So if you want to ask a question.
Oh, look at that.
With either, Bonnie, she is on it. Bonnie Frank, you are fast. I'm going to bring you in. Okay. All right. And we have one more seat.
Oh, look at that. How cool.
Hi, Bonnie. Welcome. You're my first.
It's like being on the Brady Bunch.
Lab. Yay!
Right. We have to look up and around.
Oh, yeah. It's the Brady Bunch. Right. Or Hollywood Squares.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. What's your question, Bonnie?
So, okay. I have to say I lied. I don't have a question, but I wanted to thank both of you. I've been following both of you ladies for a while, and I just really wanted to thank you. Whether it's a video, whether it's an audio, or whether it's in print, both of you are very, very easy to understand. And just really, I've really resonated with both of you, and I would not say that if I hadn't. I would just quietly be in the chat and be polite about it. So I honestly, I have no question. I just wanted to thank you. I don't even suffer from writer's block, but I saw that you guys were on here, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to thank them. So thank you so much. I'm on Blab and Periscope all the time, but I just really wanted to say thank you. So
thank you.
There you
So
go.
you're like a veteran of
Yes, I am a veteran. Exactly. So
Excellent.
thanks a lot. I'm hopping off. Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Bonnie.
Hello, ladies.
Okay.
Denise.
Hi.
My name is Damayanthi.
Damayanthi.
Yes.
Okay.
And-
That's a beautiful
Well,
name.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. So my story is I'm getting ready to start writing for Mind, Body, Green and Elephant Journal. And I speak at a really personal level. So I'm having a struggle because most of my writing has to do in first person, and I keep going back and forth, and because I read at the online publications and everything, it's really not in first person, and they don't really favor that. And I'm like, how do I do that? How do I convey the message in such a personal level without having to jump away from my personality?
Lisa?
I didn't get the end of that, but is there a reason why you feel like you can't write in first person?
I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that that's fine? That's my question. I don't know. I'm not a professional writer. I'm just getting started.
Well, it depends on if there are parameters that are established by who you're writing for. You might want to look at what other people submit, you might want to read some other people's work in there. And if you see that there is a range, then I would definitely be as much myself as I could.
Okay.
If you see that everybody seems to write in a specific style, then I might try to sort of adapt my voice to fit that style a little bit. I mean, I play with language all the time because this is what I do. I have a certain way of communicating, but it's obviously not the same as all my clients, and it's not even the same as every situation. It's not always appropriate in every situation that I write in. So I make small changes, but I do try to stick to the core themes of who I am and what I believe, and a core way of conveying it. It's just my language will be a little looser if I'm being more personal, and it'll be a little bit more formal if it's more of a business thing. And it's really a question of finding out what the sweet spot is in that publication. If you have freedom, I'd say just be you.
Really? Okay. Thank you so much. That's so empowering. I so appreciate that.
You go, girl.
Thank you. All right, ladies, have fun. Thanks for answering my question. I so appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for being here.
Denise, I can't see you anymore.
You can try refreshing your screen. I can see you.
Okay, I see like a little head outline.
Can you see Elizabeth?
I can see Elizabeth. Elizabeth's down under the little outline of you.
Okay. Elizabeth,
hey,
do you have a question?
I do.
Hi, how are you? It's
great.
so great to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm just, your email like crossed my screen this morning, like 5 minutes before you started, and I'm going, wow, I gotta do that. And
Cool.
I totally agree with everything Bonnie said about you. I don't know Lisa as well, and I'm looking forward to getting to know her better. So Lisa, your visibility has increased today already.
Yes, it has. This is my adventure.
My question is this. Are there any tools that help? I'm thinking particularly of Scrivener. I've just started using that. But one thing that has helped me with Scrivener is that I can take my outline and put it in there, and then it's like all of the different sections are in front of me. So if I'm not in the mood to write about one, I can write about another. Is that or something else helpful that you can recommend?
I am not a tool person. I'm very, as Denise will tell you, I basically live in the 1800s. And so And since I've been writing since I was a little kid, I really don't use anything. But the people that I know that do use something all use Scrivener. Scrivener is the thing that they find really prompts them and really helps them flesh stuff out. So I would say go for it. I'm sorry, I really don't have awareness of much more. I just kind of jot ideas down in files called blog ideas or book ideas or whatever and revisit them from time to time.
Yeah, and
that's basically the extent of my tool work.
I do a lot of that as well. So, okay, great. Thanks.
Do you use Evernote, Elizabeth?
Yes, I do. Yes. And that's super for capturing ideas if I'm anywhere else besides near a notebook. So
exactly. That's what I use too for capturing. And I love it because it syncs across all devices.
Absolutely.
So I can just, record a note for myself and that kind of thing. And that's very helpful.
I would rather lose my brain than my Evernote files. Pretty synonymous at this point.
It seems like it, isn't it? Okay. Anything else, Elizabeth?
No, thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you for coming on. I'm so grateful, and it's so good to see you. This is just like, I feel like we're in the same room.
Absolutely. Great.
Okay. I'm going to bring on Margarita, who is my host this morning. So Margarita. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I have enjoyed the communication and the advice about the writer's block, because I'm a writer too, right? And I have the problem of spelling and grammar, but the stream of flow comes a lot. And then so the gibberish that comes out of my writing, it's a little bit hard to decipher sometimes. And so what kind of advice, Lisa, can you give an author like me to help me to actually streamline it, have something in my mind so that it can come out a little bit clearer?
That's where outlining for me saves my bacon day in and day out. And I don't always use it. I love to wing it. I write for a living, so sometimes I feel like I can do anything. I feel like Superwoman, and I can just sit down at my computer and I can write 8,000 words without even planning, and it'll all be perfect. And sometimes that does happen because I do it so often, but a lot of the time it doesn't. And when it doesn't, that's when I go back to outlining. What am I trying to say? What's the most logical thing to say first? What do I need to elaborate on? What's the most logical thing to say second? What do I need to elaborate on again? And you just go back to those basics. And then, especially if you already have something written, then you can start picking out the pieces, putting those in, taking the things that you like the best. Oh, man, I love that sentence that I wrote. You stick that in somewhere, but then you think, but it doesn't make any sense because it's missing X, Y, and Z. And you can put those things in because the outline will tell you what you need to make the thing make sense and hold together as a piece.
That's very, very helpful. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Have you heard of this method of snowflake?
No.
What is that?
Well, it's like a fractal, right? I just got into trying to picture it. So you have the triangle, right? And then the next step is like, there is more levels of this, and then you have the whole snowflake. So that's the basic statement, and then that's the a paragraph statement, and then there is the development of the whole story, right? There is somewhere online snowflake method.
Okay. It sounds like a specific kind of an outlining tool almost.
Yes.
To help you decide what needs to be there. In your outline.
Mm-hmm.
Some butterfly herder said it sounds like a mind map.
Yeah.
It's like.
But Lynn said it isn't really a mind map. So, okay.
Well,
it's a hybrid of a mind map outline.
Okay. All right. Elizabeth, I'm going to see if somebody else wants to come on.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much for accepting.
And Margarita, you're out. So if anybody else wants to come on.
It's a very weird Brady Bunch here.
We'll take a couple more questions if you want. Otherwise, one thing I just want to make sure, I've been posting the link to Lisa's 5-step process to get through writer's block when you're actually actively in it. I've been posting that in the chat there. That's a link. I also have a link she guest posted on my blog today. And if you want to get a sense of Lisa's quirky style, it was pretty funny. I was laughing while I was, getting it all set up to post. So you can see. I asked her, is writer's block a myth? Does it really exist? Because some people are very adamant that there's no such thing as writer's block and that it's just procrastination. So
I don't like those people at all, because I know it's real. It happens to me. I know.
Well, I've experienced it. So for me, it's happening too. So, okay. Anybody else want to come in, hop on to an open seat? If not, we will wrap this up. I will ask my usual final question. I've got to keep my, my format going here, because this really is an episode of Adventures in Visibility, which we have done in so many ways here today. Lisa, you're like making a debut here. This is fantastic. So would you share with us your most memorable adventure? And I'm sorry, I didn't warn you I was going to ask this, but, this can be anything, travel, life, whatever.
Many. My whole life has been a big adventure, but I'd say probably the most memorable adventure was moving to New Zealand for a few years with my family, living in a foreign country. Even if it's not really that foreign, compared to America, there's still malls and gas stations, and you go to the supermarket. Things are very similar, but still, to be in another culture like that for a few years and have that experience. Plus, it's the most beautiful place on the planet. So gorgeous. If you love water, if you love to be outside, if you love climbing mountains, volcanoes, it's an amazing place. Yeah. So that was one of my many, but definitely my favorite.
Cool. I would love to go to New Zealand.
You should. You would love it there.
I would love it there. I know.
Written all over it.
I would definitely love it. The fellow who does my hair, I've been seeing for like 13 years. He's from New Zealand. So
Kiwis are lovely people too.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the best place for people to find you online, Lisa?
You can find me at copycoachlisa.com, or you can find me at gethipcreative.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Twitter, or I don't know. Denise knows.
Okay.
You can find me everywhere. Thanks to Denise knows. Find me everywhere.
Okay. Denise knows where you are.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, I thought I typed in the URL, but I guess not. Okay.
That's okay.
So thank you so much. Thank you to you, the audience, for joining me and sharing this momentous occasion, my very first Blab show, Adventures in Visibility on Blab. I am so grateful for you showing up, for you, sharing on Twitter, for the conversation that's been going on in the sidebar. For those of you who jumped into the open video seat, I loved it. Thank you so much. That's always the thing. It's like, is anybody going to do it? And yes, you did. And I so appreciate it. You can get advance notice of scheduled Adventures in Visibility by signing up at adventuresinvisibility.com. I also create a podcast from the show, which you can subscribe to at adventuresinvisibilitypodcast.com. And it's also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. So if you want to take the show on the go with you, you can go to adventuresinvisibilitypodcast.com. So for all of you who are here with me today, for all of you who watch the replay, for all of you who are listening to this down the road, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you, Lisa Canfield, blog coach. I was going to say, no, that's me, blog coach. You're the book coach. Book coach extraordinaire. I am so grateful to have you in my life. Thank you all, one and all, for being here with me today, and have an adventurous